What's the worst date you've ever been on? Story 1. I went out for dinner and a movie with a guy. I tried to chip in money at both, but he insisted that he cover it all. At the end of the night, we're sitting in his car in the parking lot of the restaurant we had just eaten at, and he asks for a BJ, saying, I bought you dinner and took you to a movie. It's the least you could do. Thankfully, I lived nearby. I hopped out and walked home. Story 2. I went on a Tinder date with a guy who is now in my contacts as Do Not Answer PP Pic. Prior to the date, he seemed normal. We texted and talked on the phone, then arranged to meet at a restaurant/bar. He was cute, but definitely bitter about something. He was from California, and apparently didn't like this new city we were in. He started talking about doing it, and BJs, and complaining about how uptight everyone here is about doing the deed. He invited the waitress to a party his company was throwing, after sending back the french fries he ordered. I showed him a picture of my dog on my phone. He took out his phone and showed me a picture of his private part. We walked out of the restaurant together to get our cars from the valet. My car came first and I left. He texted me later that he had my sweater. Apparently, I dropped it on the way out. And if I wanted to see it again, I'd have to hang out with him. R.I.P. sweater. Story 3. I went on a date with a girl from OkCupid. It was late-ish, it was around 9 p.m., and she sent me a message out of the blue. We talked for a while, and she wanted to meet up for food. I hadn't had dinner yet, so I agreed. We were to meet up at a local diner. Her profile picture was reasonable, not my typical type, but not awful. What showed up, however, was not great. She was about 5'2", and somewhere between 190 to 210 pounds. Rotund is the best word. That would have been fine if she wasn't toadish? I'm trying to be nice here. That would have even been okay, but it wasn't just her. She had brought her friend along, a 16-year-old. I was 22, she was 20. To compound that, her friend had brought her toddler along. Oh, and her friend brought another friend. So here I am with 3 girls and a toddler that I don't know. All 3 of the girls had brought Monster Energy into the restaurant with them. We sat down at the table and it just went downhill from there. The toddler ran out of juice in her sippy cup, so the mom filled it with Monster. She then let the toddler play with a sugar container, one of the shaker-style ones, big cylinder with a little flappy thing. She promptly poured sugar all over the table and started licking it up. Meanwhile, all the girls are laughing at the toddler and having a great time. They're talking amongst each other and not even attempting to include me in their conversation. After about 5 minutes of them ignoring me, they started talking about guys from high school. Long story short, I ate half a chicken sandwich, excused myself, apologized to the hostess/waitress for the mess and the awful people, left a $50 bill, and got the hell out. Story 4. I went on a date with a guy who seemed really cool. He used to race bikes until he landed on his head after attempting a jump. During the date, he 1. Told everyone we were on a date. Everyone. 2. Told me he wanted to kill his ex-roommates. 3. Asked the waitress to make the date more romantic, so she brought out a giant ice cream sundae, meant for 2 people to share. He ate it all by himself and spilled ice cream all over himself. 4. He bragged about beating the world record for the jump on which he landed on his head. 5. Kept asking me if I was a gold digger because he makes tons of money and needs to protect himself. 6. Demanded separate bills. No big deal. 7. All 4 of his credit cards were declined. Asked me if I didn't mind paying and he would get it next time. Not that there would be a next time ever. 8. Told everyone that the date went splendidly. 9. Gave me stickers to his welding company as a thank you for paying, since his credit cards must have had some kind of error. Story 5. I had a very disappointing date in high school. It was the dead of winter, like negative 40 degrees Celsius. We had gone to a movie and the whole thing was really awkward. She didn't really seem to want to be there, was very detached. After the movie and the bus trip home, she admitted that the only reason she even agreed to the date with me is because my friend had turned her down a few days earlier. I wasn't aware of that at the time. That was a pretty big letdown and a waste of time. But I figured whatever. I'll head home and find something else to spend time on. I'll get over it eventually. I got off the bus and just wanted to get home as soon as possible. At the bus stop, there's a thigh-high railing around the front of the nearby parking lot. Instead of walking around it, I decided to step onto and then over it. The second I stepped onto it, I realized it was coated in ice. I Charlie Browned the F out. Just flipped through the air. Lost everything in my pockets, ripped my pants from a-hole to zipper, and then came down hard right onto the railing with my shin, fracturing it. It's still negative 40 degrees out. I can't just lay there till help comes, so I fish around in the snow, grab my stuff, try to stuff my balls back into my pants, and stagger home. Story 6. I met her in an adult soccer league. I asked to grab breakfast that weekend, and she accepted. Picked her up, took her to a hole-in-the-wall diner, ordered the garden omelet. Throughout the meal, she talked about all the crap she was into. Breath play, being dominated, being hit, but not too hard. Whips and cuffs. As Kevin Hart would say, she was getting too naughty too fast. I got the check, realized my wallet was in my gym bag from the night before. I apologized. She paid for the both of us, and I took her back to her place. She invited me in, and I couldn't refuse as she had just bought me a meal. An hour later, after doing the dirtiest deed of my life up to that point, we were lying in bed when she gets a text and panics. Oh my god, you have to leave. My boyfriend got off work early, and if he finds us, he'll kick me out. This is the first I'm hearing of a significant other, and I realized that I just effed a chick on her boyfriend's bed after she bought me breakfast with money he gave her. FML. So I throw on half my clothes, jump into my car, and knock over the mailbox in my rush to get the hell out of Dodge. When I get home, I see that my rear bumper has a nice new crack. Story 7. Back in college, I was invited to an ice rink with a girl I liked and some of her friends. I did not know how to ice skate and I did not pick it up very quickly, but I wanted to try and impress her somehow. Well, I hugged the wall the whole time and made a fool out of myself. The highlight was when I saw a flash of light as I fell in front of a group of people. Turns out I had fallen right at the moment someone took a picture, so my failure was immortalized forever. She took me back to my apartment and ended the relationship before it began. On a lighter note, the woman who is now my wife was at the ice rink on that night. We didn't realize we were there at the same time until a year or two into our relationship and she exclaimed, "You were that guy who couldn't ice skate." Yeah, she didn't seem that into you. Story 8. I've got 2. I met a guy from OkCupid. He seemed nice but never stopped talking. After interrupting me for the 3rd or 4th time, I finally ask him, "Do you want to hear anything I have to say?" He apologizes profusely and says, "You're right, I'm so sorry," and pulls out a pad of paper and a pen. He then jots notes as I'm telling him about myself and whatnot. I finally ask him what he's doing and he says, "Oh, I'm writing down things I want to tell you and it's my turn to talk again." The second guy I also met from OkCupid, he knowingly used pictures that didn't accurately reflect the way he looked and kept saying, "You look just like your pics," in shock. He then told me I reminded him of his mother, like it was a good thing. Story 9. I was really young, probably around 15 or so. I was boy crazy. I had a crush on every guy who even remotely expressed an interest in me. But this guy, there are no words to describe this guy. His name was Jesse. We met through a mutual friend, and while he wasn't exactly my type, he told me he thought I was pretty, and so I wanted to give him a chance. A couple of weeks later, we decided to meet up at the mall for our first official date. He was very sweet. We were holding hands, typical teenage BS. But then he got weird. Very weird. We're sitting on this bench, and he turns to me and stares at me right in the eyes and says, "Wow, when I look at you, and I look into your eyes, I feel like I'm looking into your soul." Okay, I'm 15 and desperate for an epic love story, so I just smile. He goes on, "DFTB awesome. I know this seems soon, but I think you might be my soulmate. I can't wait until the day we can get married and have babies and live together. We're going to have such an amazing life together." So let me recap. I'm 15. I'm on a first date. And my date just essentially proposed to me. I noped the F out of there and never talked to him again. Story 10. He was more than 3 hours late and was texting me telling me that he was 20 minutes away for 2 of those hours. As soon as he arrived, he tried to tell me to leave the part of the venue/dive bar I'd already paid into so we could go where he wanted. Tried to start a fight with a friend I'd happened to run into, and called my aunt, who talked me into going out with him in the first place, a cock-blocking B-word. I just walked away from him after that last one, and we never spoke again. I waited so long because I liked the bands that were playing. I wouldn't have stayed if I was sitting around doing nothing. He got there just before the last band finished, and I'd had about enough of him by then because he'd been telling me that he was on the train in the same place for 2 hours. We don't live out in the middle of nowhere, and he could have easily gotten a bus or a tram the rest of the way in that time if there was a problem with the train. He never gave me a proper excuse, but I didn't really care at that point. Story 11. I went on an online date with this guy when I first moved back home from college. We met up, and I have a bad habit of telling my parents, I'm going out, I'll be back later, without any specifics, etc. Anyway, this time she says, just be careful, and if you can't drive, get out of the car. We were en route to our first destination, and it was closed. So he asked me where I wanted to go instead, and I said Hooters and bowling. I know, keep it classy right here. His driving was so reckless, I mean really bad. Anyway, we ended up going across town because he wanted to take me to this one place. By this time, I've determined I'm not into him and I want out. So I just go along with it. Maybe we can be friends, right? His brakes give out and we end up having an accident. We ran into the back of a truck pretty hard and I jerk forward. Glasses flying off. After the smoke settles, when I'm nervous, I start laughing. He asks if I'm okay. I said sure and I'm looking for my glasses and he goes, oh, this is bad. Really bad. So I said, why? No insurance? He says, no, I have a warrant for my arrest. He gets out the car and runs. As he's running into the sunset, he's yelling back at me, I'm really sorry, I can't afford to go to jail again. The person we hit leaves, so I'm the only one there and police show up. I had to call my parents to come pick me up because I have no friends in the area, and of course, I gave the cops his info. I knew I wasn't going to talk to him again. The police gave me a ride to a gas station across the street as I was waiting for someone to pick me up. I leaned back, took a picture in the cop car, posted it on Facebook, and tagged him in the profile picture. Somewhere in between the running, he found time to get on Facebook and blocked me. Bad part about not just the accident, I didn't even get a chance to enjoy Hooters and wings. Story 12. I'm walking down the street just finishing a conversation on my old-ass craptastic flip phone. Just as I'm hanging up, wham! I run into someone and drop my phone. I apologize, grab my phone, and head back to work. 10 minutes later, I get a phone call. Hey, I think we switched phones by accident. Turns out the girl I bumped into had the same phone as me. Anyways, we plan to meet at a local coffee place after work that day to trade back. I walk up and see this very cute ginger wearing a suit dress. We chat for a bit. Turns out she works at a bank, likes what I like, and is totally up getting dinner this weekend. Great. Saturday evening rolls around and I swing by her place to pick her up. Out her door walks a girl who looks remarkably like said date, only instead of professional office clothes, she's wearing a 4-inch platform hoe boots, fishnet stockings, some sort of corset-like top, and spiky hair. Now normally I don't really care about a person's style, but I was a bit taken aback. Who cares? I think, and jump out to open the door. Cue witty banter. Everything is going great. She's laughing at my jokes, and her humor seems to match mine perfectly. She asks what the plan is for the night, and I tell her I'm going to take her to my absolute favorite high-quality dining establishment, and get her a Big Mac. Hell, if she plays her cards right, I might even supersize it. She runs with a joke, and even one-ups me. My spirits are high. She might have wild fashion, but this chick is cool. We arrive at this nice pub in town, and I turn off the car. What about McDonald's? Legit confused look on her face. I laugh, and upon seeing her face stop in confusion, we head inside and order dinner. I have a scotch, and she orders the biggest boot. This restaurant has glass boots of Bud Light I've ever seen. The waiter comes over and takes our order. As he's leaving, my date whispers rather loudly, I can't believe they let his people in such a classy place. We should probably check our food for spit before we eat it. Our waiter is black and has ears, so I'm beginning to panic. She continues her whispered commentary on the supremacy of whites, all the while putting away an obscene, but impressive, quantity of beer. Dinner arrives and she makes a point of checking her plate for saliva. Waiter and I make eye contact, and I like to think that he understood that I agreed with him that this girl was nuts. So, 3 more boots of beer later, she excuses herself for a bathroom break while I take care of the check. I apologize profusely to the waiter for my date's conduct. Dude is a true gentleman. Don't worry about it, man. There are all sorts of people in this world. My date returns and we head out. In my car, she pulls out a cigarette and lights up. Doesn't even bother putting the window down. We should go shooting at my dad's farm. What's your favorite fun? I vaguely excuse myself from such activities and point out that it is rather late and time to go home. I drop her off at her house and she says, "This was great, except for that N-word waiter. We should totally go get that Big Mac sometime. See you soon." I flee. Story 13. Happened to my cousin. No, not me, my cousin. And I will tell the story till I die. Her and I lived together at the time. She worked at a tanning salon. She mentions this guy, Vaughn, that started coming in, and he's really hot and always flirts with her. So, I guess 2 weeks after back and forth flirting, Vaughn asks her out on a date. She comes home, gets all prettied up. I wish her luck. Tell her to please call me if she decides to stay over so I know she's okay. She's a few years younger than me, and I have no idea who this guy is. Anyways, she ends up calling me about 5 hours later. Hysterical. Bawling her eyes out. Can't understand a word. All I can make out is, "I'm at the hospital. My car is at blah 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 address. Please go get it, then come pick me up." So, my boyfriend and I go get her car. We drop it off at our house. Then, my boyfriend decides to pick up a couple buddies along the way because it sounds like someone needed an ass kicking. We had no idea what was going on. We get to the hospital and she's outside shivering. A man is standing near her, but not beside her. He looks worried and she looks like hell. She jumps in the car and screams, "Just drive." Me being mad AF says to the guy, "Are you Vaughn?" He looks like he's going to cry at any second. He says, "Yes, please don't be mad. I brought her here. I had to. She didn't want me to." Please let me explain. My cousin is in absolute hysterics at this point, punching the back of my seat. "Please go." I said, "I don't have time to listen to you. She wants to go home. I need to take care of her." We drive home. I keep asking her what the F happened. "Please tell me now. Did he hurt you? Do we need to call the cops?" Her response is, "No, please. Nothing like that. I'll tell you at home. Not in front of other people." So I left it at that. Dying inside to know. We get home, I tuck her in bed, give her some tea, try to calm her down. Every time she tries to start explaining, she buries her face and cries. Finally, I get it out of her. After she left the house, she met him at his house. They talked and had a coffee, and he asks what she would like to do. She suggests a movie. He says, "Okay, let's go to Blockbuster." They go to Blockbuster, and this is where it all starts. They pick their movie and head to the cashier. She says she doesn't feel good and remembers waking up on the floor. Vaughn told her she passed out and hit her head pretty hard on the counter. She said he was begging her to go to the hospital right then and there. She said, "No, I'll be fine. Let's just go watch the movie." So he agreed. They get back to his place and he keeps asking if she's alright, if she would please change her mind and go to the hospital. She says no over and over. She said she doesn't remember falling asleep, but she guessed that's what happened. Because suddenly she wakes up urgently needing to poo and vomit. She has no idea the layout of this guy's house, so she scrambles to the floor feeling dizzy again. She starts crawling, literally, asking where the washroom is, and he tries picking her up to take her. But she said she couldn't hold back, and she throws up all over his floor, all over him, pooed her pants, and she starts crying. She said he was so concerned, he didn't even care. He just took her to the bathroom to finish. While they make it to the bathroom, she said she pulls her pants down before she makes it to the toilet and poos like a parrot all over the walls. He gently closes the door and says, "Pass me your clothes," and he has something for her to wear. She agrees and does so. She said she stops vomiting and pooping and finally agreed to go to the hospital. He takes her, and then shortly after, I got that phone call. While she's telling me this, I'm laughing so hard. crying, rubbing her head, and wondering if this is all a joke. No, because they ended up getting married, and we bring this up at least once a year.